But Jed Shepherd, everyone, thank you so much for for joining us today. So we just wanted to get him on to ask a couple of questions about Host, obviously, but also what he's got coming down the pike and where he came from and everything in between. So if you have any questions, we are going to have you place them in the chat. As we get into getting Jed and Rob together, if anything pertains to the flow of the conversation we're getting into, obviously we'll pick that question. Because we are under time constraints, we're going to be going for about an hour. We can't really get to everybody's question, but we do appreciate those questions. And if we have an opportunity, obviously we will log those and try to reach out to Jed and Rob with their time consideration if they're ever able to, again, answer those. So yeah. Perfect. All right, so go ahead and Joshua, go ahead and kick us off.
Well, hey, I'm Josh from Dread Central, and Mo was nice enough to invite me on to co-moderate. Jed, fantastic to be meeting you. Your film is just blowing people's minds. And, you know, one of the things, you know, I was asking myself as a horror journalist, I was like, what is it that's making this film hit so hard right now? Especially since in 2014, we had Unfriended, which seemed to kick off this whole desktop style of horror. And oh, hey, Rob's here now.
hey, sorry
everyone.
Hey guys, sorry, I can't.
Look at this setup. It's mad. Look at all these people in the room. It's awesome.
Oh, fuck, let me just go on gallery view. Fuck.
Yeah, right?
It's cool.
So now we have to go all the way back to the beginning and start.
Sorry. I realized that I just can't tell the time.
You were good to go, man. You were good to go. Easy peasy.
Well, now we're here with the writer, director, and the writer-producer, Rob Savage and Jed Shepherd. Again, I'm your co-moderator, Josh Millican from Dread Central with Sock Monkey over here. You know, Host is hitting so hard right now, and I was wondering, you know, why is this hitting so hard when Unfriended didn't back in 2014? And that really kind of launched this desktop horror phenomenon. And I realized, you know, 6 years ago, it was only kind of the most tech savvy of us were video calling at that time, you know. So Unfriended was certainly scary, but it didn't have this universal ring to it. Now, in this era of isolation, everyone's on Zoom. You have a desktop horror experience that's suddenly hitting a lot harder, and it's something that's ringing true with a lot of people. Obviously, the timing and what's going on around the world is playing into the film's success. So that's just kind of for me to kind of frame the whole thing, because it's what I found. So it really is what's so interesting. But before we really dive into Host, I wanted to give you two a chance to talk a little bit about Dawn of the Deaf, because you guys worked on. And I believe that's how you began your creative relationship, yes?
Basically, I saw Rob do a 1 minute comedy short online. And based on that, I said we should hang out and make horror films. And in our very first meeting, I pitched Rob Dawn of the Deaf. And he was like, whoa, because he's always wanted to make horror films. But before we did that, we wanted to test the waters a little bit to see if this relationship would work. And we made a 3 minute short called Absence, starring Paul McGann, which gave us our first taste of the festival circuit. And then once that did all right, we thought, okay, now we can tackle Dawn of the Deaf.
Yeah. And I think like Dawn of the Deaf was the first film that we really tried to push the boat out, and we tried to do something that was really like hugely ambitious. We had almost no money. I mean, we made Dawn of the Deaf for about $7,000, and I feel like Dawn of the Deaf and Host are quite similar in how we approach them, in that we had these limitations, of budget, of timescale, and we kind of wrote Dawn of the Deaf around what we had access to. You know, we wanted to, Dawn of the Deaf is basically, for those who don't know, an apocalypse movie where everyone is killed by a mysterious noise apart from the deaf community, who obviously can't hear it and remain unaffected. So the whole, all the characters are deaf. So we needed to kind of give this sense of a kind of global apocalypse on the tiniest budget in the world. And, it was really about just scraping our resources together to try and make something that the audience could watch without having to have the budget in the back of their head. Because I think audiences don't watch movies in that way. Yeah. And we had a similar thing with Host. we knew that a few people, you know, filmmakers specifically would watch Host and think, oh, this is cool that they made this in the lockdown. But to be honest, most people aren't going to be watching it with that framework. They're just going to be watching it as a horror movie, and it had to deliver on that front, and we had to be able to push the boundaries beyond what a movie like Unfriended had done, which, you know, is a movie that we really love, actually.
You like
yeah.
Unfriended, yeah.
But, you know, but we knew that the expectations would be set at a certain level, and we needed to go beyond that.
I think it was really wonderful, especially I'm someone who worked in audiology for a really long time. So understanding the isolation period, starting off with deafness and hard of hearing, and to see them at the forefront, and you do have to, those who are looking for Dawn of the Deaf, you catch it, it's on Vimeo right now still, correct? They can check that out from 2016. But I highly recommend headphones. There's just so many tonalations in that you get from you get the perspective from the deaf community, and having that particular marginalized sect that doesn't usually get featured as the hero in drama, sci-fi, horror. What was the motivation or the inspiration behind choosing that as the story?
For me, I've just always been fascinated by the underdog, and I mean, London's a very multicultural, many different types of people. So we're seeing people of all different types of disabilities every single day. They're just not represented a lot in film. And to have a horror film have protagonists that are deaf is almost unheard of. It's really, really rare. And also, when I was in sixth form college, I really fancied this deaf girl. So I always wanted to learn how to do sign language, but I don't really have the patience to do that. So that was in my mind as well. Like, it was almost like a love letter to that person. But
what was her name?
I can't even remember.
Oh, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can.
No.
I've got deaf family members, so I don't, you know, before I'd even met Jed, I was like, I always wanted to do a zombie movie. I always wanted to do a movie exploring the deaf community, but I'd never had the idea to combine them. And when Jed kind of pitched me this idea, it was like this light bulb moment of like, it's one of the, like, I feel like the best ideas generally, but especially in genre, like the best ideas are the ones that feel like they're on the tip of everyone's tongue, and like somebody is going to make this movie eventually. It's just going to appear in someone else's head. And I feel like Dawn of the Deaf is one of those ideas where the first time I heard it, I was like, how has nobody made that movie already?
Right.
And, you know, and I think one of the things that's really interesting about horror and why I love it so much is that you're making a contract with the audience. You're saying, you know, I'm going to scare you. I'm going to play out these scenes of tension. But so long as I deliver on that, I can do almost anything else within that structure. Like, you know, horror fans are really open-minded and they're really adventurous in their tastes. And, you know, it's like we're working on a Dawn of the Deaf feature at the moment.
Fantastic.
And it's you know, the aim. Yeah. And the aim with that is for it to be a kind of like balls to the walls, fun Friday night, you know, big screen horror movie that just happens to have deaf protagonists. And I think horror is the only genre where you could do that, where you could, you know, hopefully release a movie wide, but exploring also this kind of subset of society that's not really represented on screen. And that, you know, that's why I love working within horror, because it gives you license to do that.
Yeah, you do have a huge, I mean, the world really is your oyster. And I think that there's so much that, why wouldn't it work? Why isn't it plausible? Everything's plausible. Everything's plausible in horror. Everything. The possibilities are endless with it. So I really, really love that movie. It's a short, with that particular short, you've got a lot of some of the actresses from that movie are currently in Host. What was that conversation like, speaking to them about, this is what the idea is, this is how big we want to get it, this is how it's going to play out? What was that like?
It was really easy, actually. It was honestly the easiest casting process in the world, because they're our friends now. You know, we were already hanging out with them on Zoom, doing Netflix parties and Zoom quizzes and all this kind of stuff that everyone's been doing. We were hanging out already, and you know, when we got the idea to do a movie, it was literally as simple as on our Friday night Zoom drinking session saying, you know, why don't we go and make a movie? what's the worst that could happen? And, you know, it actually started with a prank video that I pulled on.
I was going to ask you about that. Yes, please tell us about the prank that launched Host.
Well, and Jed can attest to this. Like, I moved into just before lockdown, I moved into my new flat, and I checked out every room in the house except for my attic. And then, you know, within the first few months, I started hearing these weird noises from the attic. Genuinely, I started hearing like footsteps and scraping from the attic. But like the stupid character in every horror movie, I just didn't bother checking it out. I didn't have a stepladder, so I couldn't be fucked. And like, I put it off, and then lockdown happened, and suddenly I was like stuck in the house with potentially something living in the attic. So, and fuck, there was a time, and Jed, I need you to vouch for me on this because I sound like a mad person, but like, literally,
I know what you're gonna say.
We came back to my flat this one time, and like the attic door was like slightly ajar, and there was like a chocolate bar wrapper on the floor in the middle of my hallway, and like and there wasn't there when I left. No, Jed,
you're pulling some legs now.
With Jed as my witness.
True. And I was like, "What's that, Rob?" He didn't even tell. He picks it up, and I was like, "Rob, what's that?" And he's like, "It's a chocolate wrapper," and it looked like recently eaten because the chocolate was still like relatively like wet.
It's like some real horror right here.
Yeah. So lockdown happened. You know, I think maybe there's an axe murderer living in my attic. I go up there, and there's not. It's empty, but it's creepy as fuck, and it really reminds me of the scene from Wreck, where the cameraman, you know, sticks his camera up in the attic and the zombie child jumps out at him. So I kind of formulated this idea that maybe I could use it to like scare the shit out of my friends, because I'd been kind of telling them about these noises from my attic for ages, for like months and months and months. So I got them all on Zoom. I told them, you know, I need you here for emotional support. Let's film this as well, just in case I die, so my death's not in vain. And I made this, like, actually, let me see if I can get it. I like made this weird contraption. Like,
Rob's basically MacGyver.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. It's good that you said it, not me, Jed. Like I made this like weird contraption out of cardboard that like slot onto my laptop, which meant that I could put my phone there and it would perfectly film my laptop screen without seeing the edges. So
it looks it looks like you're watching a live video, but you're watching Rec played on
the scene from Rec. So I got them on a call. I did a little like sleight of hand thing, put it in front of the screen, played them this clip from Rec, and they thought for a moment that I'd been eaten by a zombie child. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah, and then then that ended up blowing up and online and getting all these great views, and like we really thought that was going to be the thing that we did in lockdown, that was the thing we could be proud of. And and it really
actually became the proof of concept that you went to Shudder with, right?
Your Sizzler reel.
Yeah. Well, actually, like, like I'd love to say that in that moment we knew that we had to make a feature, but actually we were thinking about doing another prank video. Like we were thinking really small potatoes, and like other TV companies started to call me and be like, "We saw your short film. Can you do a longer version?" And that's what got the idea in my head.
Yeah.
And so
that actually saved us though, because me and Rob were going to set ourselves on fire just to chase that high of getting a viral video, because we got like 7 million views in like 2-3 days. So we were like, okay, what else can we do? So we were just set ourselves on fire and film it and put that online. But
we should set ourselves on fire now, Jed.
Yeah, we should.
How many views would that get?
McCain Hatter fire stunt.
That would be traumatizing.
It's lucky
traumatize your moderators. No trauma, please.
But Shudder was one of the companies who reached out, and we pitched it around, and there was kind of this little bidding war over the project, because it was, it looked like it was one of the only things that might be able to get filmed this year. Jed came up with this idea of a bunch of friends doing a Zoom seance, and that was pretty much all we had when we pitched it out. We were like, it's a bunch of friends doing a Zoom seance. Something scary happens. We'll figure it out. Give us some money. And like a lot of people actually with that like vague pitch actually like threw in and it became a bit of a bidding war. But Shudder were the only ones that really saw how we wanted to make this, that we wanted to make this in a properly indie way, and we wanted to like get this out as fast as possible. This was a film made by people in lockdown, about people in lockdown, for people in lockdown, that had to be out as soon as possible to touch on this current moment. And Shudder were the only company that got that.
How Rob pitched it was like, it's Zoom seance, and we're going to use our friends. We're not going to cast out, put an audition process out
Oh
there.
yeah. It was
We used our friends, and they were happy with that. They were fine with that, not knowing who our friends were.
Well, I know there are a bunch of people who have questions for you guys, but before that, I've just got to ask, since the film's been out, has anyone come back at you and said, we've done Zoom seances and crazy stuff has happened?
No, but I tell you what, literally as soon as we get off this call with you, we're going to do another Zoom seance with the guys.
Nice.
Yeah.
Slash Film have organized one. We've got a professional exorcist.
That
Actually,
is amazing.
coming
I was
on.
just gonna ask, like, is that something you've done before? A group, like, what is your experience with the occult and that type of thing that you would like?
We've done a bunch of seances.
Yeah,
a whole bunch of seances.
Just before we started filming, we obviously had to see how the girls would react in a seance situation, so we could actually write it. So we so Rob has a friend who's a real medium who he hung out with for like 6 months. Rob is a seance expert, and
I did a TV movie like 4 or 5 years ago that had a medium character in it. So I joined a spiritualist church for 6 months as research. So you know, every Wednesday night I went to a town hall in Hounslow and did a seance with a bunch of people, and
so
it was great. It was great, and like it's a really interesting like community. But yeah, so we got that medium on to do a real seance for the cast.
Yeah, and like a lot of what you see in the actual film is from that real seance, especially the stuff that happens to Gemma in the real seance. Something happened to Gemma. Something flew off her shelf. She started kind of shaking and crying, and people might think it's not true, but we've recorded it all for like behind the scenes. So we have the real seance.
Blu-ray extras.
Amazing.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
so
I was just gonna ask,
it's gonna
like,
blow people's minds.
with Gemma, and Gemma's like, first of all, poor Caroline.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, so sweet.
The only one that didn't want to be in the mix.
She's so sweet.
But with Gemma, I laugh, and I actually really love her character, and I think that every friend group has a Gemma. Like, every friend group has somebody that's into the fuckery, and you know that they're not going to be completely honest and take everything seriously. Are you a Gemma? Who's a Gemma?
I am.
Jed is the Gemma of the group.
In this seance I'm doing slash film, I'm gonna.
Oh, Jed, don't! It's gonna be so awkward.
No, but Gemma is the sweetest person in real life. We just needed one person to be the person to do it, and because she in the real seance she did something that we weren't sure was true or not. We picked her to be that person, but she's embracing it. It's great. She's become a meme.
She's got a kind of sense, you know, Gemma's got a natural sense of kind of mischief about her. And apart from being like a total scaredy cat in real life, she's reasonably close to the character. I mean, they're all playing close to themselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot of physicality too in this film, like just being very confined. There's running, there's falling, especially Haley's character towards the end is basically face forward sliding through the door.
Yeah.
How did you manage to get those visuals done? Because it feels like she would need to be harnessed and be interacting with people. Just the way it was done, there's so much movie magic to some.
Yeah. Well, that shot of Haley actually getting dragged through the door, that's made up. Even though it's one static angle, that's made up of 3 different shots that are stitched together for 3 different parts of that thing. She falls down, she's dragged through and hits against the wall, the door slams. It's 3 different shots like stitched together that we did, like breaking it down very safely, trying to do each individual moment. And we made this movie at an interesting time because when we started out, we were in full-on lockdown, and when kind of midway through the shoot, the UK opened up ever so slightly, so we're able to get a stunt coordinator to be there in a full like hazmat suit, like hugged against the wall, and he directed like Haley's partner Kieran to basically attach the stunt suit to her to do the falls, and so we found these kind of ways to get around certain problems about people, about proximity and how close the stunt coordinators could get. We got people who were isolating together to rig each other and things like that. So it was a tough process, and it took a lot of figuring out. But you know, another thing that we do quite a lot in the movie is we double. We cut to different locations with stunt doubles dressed in the costumes of the main cast. So, like for instance, Emma's house is actually made up of 5 different houses. So her bedroom is her bedroom. She comes downstairs and look, I tell you what, look, she comes downstairs and she's in my flat. So that's the flat with the, you know, the cupboards exploding. And
That's where the face filter floats right opposite where Rob's now, right there.
I recognize.
Yeah. So that's me dressed in bunny slippers, like doing all that. And then she goes outside, and then when the camera whooshes up to the light that's flickering and explodes, that was done in a special effects man's house who could actually make his light bulb explode. And then in the darkness, we cut to a house where a bunch of stunt performers were isolating together so they could safely and legally perform stunts. So she gets picked up in the air, slammed down. That's a stunt performer. And then, you know, when she goes out the window, that's another stunt performer's house, another stunt performer's garden to go through the picnic table. So we did a lot of stuff like that where it appears as though it's happening to the actor, but actually we're doing it with kind of, it's almost like a patchwork quilt of different locations and different actors playing the same role.
That's the beauty of lockdown and this whole thing. We can just use anyone anywhere. They don't have to. We don't have to use a set. We can use anywhere in the entire world. So it's less of a limitation, more of an opportunity.
Yeah, literally anyone with an internet connection could be a part of the movie. And it's like it was this kind of light bulb moment we had really early on that you know, rather than limiting ourselves and saying, oh well, it's never going to live up to what people would expect from a conventionally made movie. Actually, the whole world is at our disposal. Everyone is locked down. Everyone has this like pent up creative energy that they want to use. And we did it. Before we even wrote a script, we made a big list of like cool people that we knew weren't working at the moment who might be able to help us out. People who we could set on fire or make things explode or do crazy effects for us.
We really want to set people on fire. That's the main.
Really wanted to set people on fire.
I'm detecting a theme with this setting things on fire and you guys.
I know.
Yeah.
We got 3. I have one more question before I want to open it up. We have some really amazing questions in the chat, but because of the I get with the Zoom constraints. If you have a basic Zoom account, you can only do 40 minutes to an hour of Zoom. So with the constraints of time, makes sense with this film.
Yeah.
But because what you've created has created such a buzz, not only in the genre, but because of the time length of it, do you see you guys changing the feature film game to being less than an hour? It presented in cinemas.
Yeah, I 100% do. And I know it's only been out for 2 weeks, but the majority of people have said, oh, because who made this constraint of 90 minutes to 2 hours for a feature film? It's really arbitrary. And I think my attention span specifically is very, very small. And an hour.
Yours is about 3 minutes, though.
Yeah. That's why we've done short films up until now. But like an hour feature film is perfect for me, and I hope that continues. And I know maybe you pay a little bit less in the cinema if you go to see it, but for me, it stops horror films getting boring, because a lot of them are boring because they're padding it out for 90 minutes.
Yeah, I also think there's something interesting about what expectations people put on a film of this length. Like, I do think if this was 90 minutes, if this was 90 minutes, then you'd want to know a bit more about the demon mythology. You'd want to know a bit more about Gemma and Haley's backstory. You'd want a confrontation. You'd want some catharsis, and you want more conventional kind of character arcs. And I think there was something really freeing about going into this and saying, like, these characters are literally fighting for their lives. They're not going to stop and have a heart-to-heart and talk about their backstory. Fuck that. How would people really react? These characters, like, they move millimeters in terms of their character arcs, but it's still engaging because, you know, the rule of thumb was, like, what would this really look like, as opposed to, you know, what's the conventional structure? And I think, like, I love the first Unfriended movie. So the first Unfriended movie, I think, goes for a more conventional kind of Hollywood structure. And it's really fun for that, but I don't think it has the level of kind of realism and grounding that we were going for in Host. And that was really what we saw as being the difference between, because, you know, we had these conversations at the beginning. We weren't totally like with our heads in the ground about it being compared to Unfriended. But I think the thing we were excited about is about making a film that really feels like you're rooted with these characters, and there's no, it's not flashy, and it's not kind of
Yeah, because
it's
I
not
think
swamped with graphics. It's just terrifying and authentic and visceral and all those things.
I think the fact that there isn't particularly, for most of the characters, a massive character arc makes it more authentic, because you don't get that on a real Zoom call. On a real Zoom call, you're dropped into this conversation with people that already know each other. You're not meant to have a kind of a character arc, and it makes the viewer, especially if you're watching a computer, it makes you feel like you're one of the friends, because you're not going to get their history and their dreams and hopes for the future in a real Zoom call. The fact we're using their real names adds to the authenticity. The fact that we're not using a score adds to the authenticity. The fact we're using real Zoom as well. We're not using a fake company name. We're actually using Zoom, and we got their permission.
I mean, to be honest though, like, even in a 90-minute movie, I'd advocate for more of that. Like, that's why I love like Green Room or The Strangers, these movies that are just interested in like what the actual experience of the characters would be like, and that have that real grounding in reality. I just think that's an approach that feels fresh and challenging, because we don't get enough of that. We always try and impose this kind of pre-existing structure, and it. I love it when I'm watching a horror movie and I don't have a roadmap for where it's going to go, and I'm I remember like the last time I really felt that was when I watched Us, and we were talking about this, Jed. Like, like halfway through Us, you're like, fuck, I've seen everything in the trailer, and I've got no idea what, there's like an hour left of this movie. What the fuck is going to happen? Like, it's an amazing feeling where it just it feels like the rules are being rewritten in front of you.
Yeah, I think, and the authenticity, Jed, like you said, right off the bat, it's you are dropped in. We don't know where they came from, how they formed the friendship. They just know that the double audio. Who hasn't done that through Zoom? Like, turn your cell phone off, turn it up. Your audio, you're going through all that doing Zoom, and I think that is what made it really. We were so invested in them from the very beginning, and then when everything started to happen, it just kept happening and going and going and going, which made it absolutely amazing. So thank you for that. I'm going to open it up to the room. I have a question from Elwood. Says he absolutely loved Host. Such an exciting and terrifying movie. Wanted to ask you if you had any advice on making the most of film festival runs with your short films.
Well, so I'd say the first thing. It depends kind of what level of festival you're entering. I think, like, so when I first started out, like, I started making movies quite young, and the first film festival I entered, I was like 15, and I like nobody would answer my emails when I was emailing, talking about these film productions and asking for advice. And I went to one festival, like a tiny little festival that was like in the basement of a bar, like projected on a blanket, and we won an award there. And then from that point on, I was like, okay, well, I'm an award-winning filmmaker, and I really like pumped it up. So like, I think even the smaller festivals, you can really spin that to your advantage. So that's step one. I think step two, if you get into bigger festivals, really like stay in touch, get to know the people. It's all about, like, it's an industry made of people. Don't take it for granted. Tell these people how thankful you are for the film being accepted. Try and forge a personal relationship with them, because then when you go back and do a second film that you want to play at their festival, you can go direct to them and you've got a person-to-person connection. But don't do it in a way that makes you feel leechy, but like but genuinely, like, people are selecting your film because they like your film. Like, show your gratitude. Keep in touch. Keep them in touch with what you're doing, because they genuinely want to see your career progress. Don't forget to be a human being. That's a big one. I think know your niche is a really good one. Like, know kind of what your elevator pitch for your movie is, and try and aim at festivals that fit that brief. Like with Dawn of the Deaf, like, we found this amazing like, it had this amazing ability to like to find all these different niches. We played LGBTQ festivals because of the gay romance in there. We played a lot of disability themed festivals, but also because it was it was kind of socially driven horror movie. We actually managed to kind of transcend the genre festival circuit, and we played at festivals like Sundance and the kind of higher tier festival. So I think know which stream you're moving in. If you're making a horror movie, the great thing is if you get into one of the big horror festivals like, you know, Fantastic Fest or Fantasia or something like that, a lot of the time other programmers are watching those programs and you'll just get an email out the blue. Like we played Dawn of the Deaf, premiered at Fantasia, and from that we got an email from Fantastic Fest and all these other festivals asking to see a screener. And you know, we only had to actually submit to a handful of festivals and then it took off. So I think, yeah, knowing your niche, knowing what your kind of elevator pitch for the movie is super important. Yeah, Jed, I'm waffling now, so you.
Yeah. Well, just off the,
you can go ahead and open your cam up, hon, if you want.
Thank you. First of all, again, I just wanted to say Host was such a phenomenal movie. I love Dawn of the Deaf. I love Salt.
Oh,
you
thank
guys
you.
are really spectacular. I had so much fun watching the movie. I know this, you guys kind of already talked briefly about it, but I'm just curious because it was brought up. Is there a chance that we'll get a Blu-ray release or a DVD release? If you can say anything.
Yeah.
No, Jed, stop it. Ask us to blink once for yes and twice for no.
Blink once for yes and twice for no. Okay.
So we didn't say it. I don't want to see anything.
Yeah, you didn't say it. All
you
good.
know, with anything that's successful, you're going to get all the bells and whistles.
Mm-hmm.
What Jed's saying is we're going to get toys, we're going to get T-shirts, we're going to get posters.
Yes, I need a Gemma T-shirt. I need a Gemma T-shirt.
Oh, nice. You're Team Gemma. Okay.
Thank you, Elwood. Gareth, go ahead and open up your cam and ask your question.
Hey guys.
Hey, Gareth.
Hey, congratulations on the film. That's absolutely amazing. Absolutely love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job. I've seen this film so many times. I'm not sure if I'm like imagining things that I'm seeing, or if there's things that are actually there. But I wanted to ask a bit about the use of mirror images and mirror imagery in the film, because I know that in that first shot of Gemma outside the window, there's obviously not intentional because they were already there, but sort of reverse signs, and then there's two Gemmas on the call, and Caroline's custom background changing halfway through the film has been bugging me since I first saw it. So it's sort of, is that intentional, or am I seeing things that aren't there?
No, that was it. That was well, at least two of those things were intentional. The idea of the kind of mirror images, it was our kind of like smart ass nod to the idea of the false spirit, or this kind of like mocking imitation of the Jack character that Gemma brings up. I mean, we always saw the mythology of this demon as being like we saw this demon as being a tulpa, which is a demon that's conjured through groupthink. So basically, Gemma tells this story. It paints this picture in everyone's head, and through their kind of collective imagination, this demon is allowed to manifest, and it's almost using the images of Jack in a mocking way, kind of showing them these images of the hanging man. Until at the end, you know, that final shot, we start to see it becoming more demonic, like breaking through the human facade. So we kind of had this idea of like, it's the demon is a kind of mirror of this Jack story, but it's a false image. So this mirror imagery was something that we kind of had in the back of our head, you know, and some are accidental, like you say, that the Gemma outside the window, and some like Gemma doing the double Gemma at the beginning is a nod to her kind of creating a false spirit.
It's less of a mirror, more of a mask. Their kind of group think about Jack created this image of Jack, which is kind of like a mask, and something demonic steps into that mask and becomes Jack, using Jack as a almost like a puppet, which also reflects Teddy's puppet, I guess.
I'd love it if that was intentional, but Teddy just generally has a bunch of creepy puppets.
He just showed us around his home. We're like, is that a puppet? Yeah, we'll need that.
Using that.
That'll come in handy.
Awesome. Thank you, Gareth.
Awesome, thank you.
Cheers.
Sean, why don't you go ahead and give them your question?
Yeah. Hi, guys.
Hey, Sean.
Congrats again on the film. Great work.
Thanks.
This is kind of more for Rob. As you mentioned in previous interviews, as a filmmaker, you're looking to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Consistently. And I was wondering, with technology now advancing, are you looking at maybe doing some virtual set work or VR stuff?
We've got a VR idea we're dying to get off the ground. Yeah, me and Jed have something that we think is going to be really fucking scary if we can pull it off. I've never actually shot in VR. I've done a bunch of VR experiences. I'd love to do something in VR. It seems like
it's called VR Host. It's a bit like, no, I'm joking. It's not called VR Host. It really isn't.
I'd love to like. Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, could you also maybe intertwine that with Choose Your Own Adventure in VR? Because that's kind of like a nice little narrative storytelling that I mentioned to one of the Sony execs.
I got sued by, well, almost sued by the Choose Your Own Adventure guys, because I released an album called Choose Your Own Adventure, and they're very litigious, so we wouldn't be able to. We wouldn't be able to.
Well, not officially, but yeah.
When that gets chucked out of court, we'll have a look
at
it.
We're a few years down the line now.
We were like, we had an idea. Jed, do you remember that haunted house idea that we? I don't know if we actually pitched it in the end, but we had a Choose Your Own Adventure haunted house thing that we were for the board game thing. Remember?
Oh yeah.
We had an idea, like a kind of Bandersnatchy idea that we were interested in exploring, but But I don't know. It kind of fizzled away. I mean, like that stuff really interests me. I think I need to like do more VR experiences just to understand the language of it, because from what I've seen in VR, and I don't know really enough about it to be talking about it, but Jed gave me a tequila shot before this interview, so I'm going to do it anyway. From what I've seen, like the VR experiences that I've liked the least are the ones that try and apply like a film language onto VR, and they've got these cuts, and it kind of feels like you've had a stroke whenever you cut to a new location. And like there must be like from the conversations we've had, we're interested in like trying to find a new language for it, or at least figuring out where that naturally sits. But I think horror is the natural place for VR to.
It is, and I've pretty much seen every horror VR thing you can think of. One of the worst things I've ever seen is The Ring in VR. It is the least scary thing you've ever seen. It's like Sadako comes out of the TV and you just feel like you could just punch her in the face and have a nice day after that. It's not terrifying, because you've got to earn the scares, which I think we did in Host. You've got to really earn the scares and make the audience care about the characters before you kill them off. And in VR, it's really hard because you're the character. Yeah, we're actually a friend of ours.
But I thought that. Oh no, sorry, no, finish up.
Yeah, a friend of ours who works in VR, she said she's going to lend us a bunch of VR stuff to kind of like check it out and practice and things, so we know the beats.
I'm totally just like going off on a crazy tangent here, but I had exactly the same feeling about video games before lockdown, and I only started playing video games in lockdown, and I feel like I've only played a handful of them, but I feel like there are certain games that are using the language of video games in a unique way, and they're not just trying to be films, and they're not just trying to emulate what's come before. And I feel like there's probably a sweet spot with VR where you can come up with something that's really involving and really kind of engages your empathy in a way that just a conventional horror film couldn't do.
Yeah.
I felt like that was a long rambling answer.
All right, thanks guys.
VR. If Sony wants to give us some money to make a VR film, and Sean sort us out.
Cash app. Kristen, go ahead and ask your question.
Kristen, your mic's off.
Your mic's off.
Wait, I can lip read. Just come a bit closer.
I love hearing about happy accidents that happen on set while you're shooting, because so many things can go wrong. Like, oh, that stunt wasn't planned that way, but it works better. Like something like that was what comes to mind that happened while you were shooting, or
I mean,
Emma's eye.
Oh fuck, Emma's eye, massively. So the shot of that shot of Emma's eye, which probably, if anything in the movie is going to become iconic, it's going to be that shot. I'd love to say that I planned that shot and I storyboarded it out, but actually, like the way that we shot the movie, there's not actually a frame of Zoom footage in the movie. We didn't screen record any Zoom stuff. We built all the Zoom grids ourselves, and the way that we did that is we got the actors to tape their mobile phones to the back of the laptop, so that the camera was pointing out just over the laptop camera. So I monitored it via Zoom, and we chatted via Zoom, but it was the footage was being filmed on these mobile phones, and Emma just couldn't get it right. She couldn't mount it so that we got anything similar to what we were seeing on Zoom. It was always way too high, which is why she spends the whole thing like this, and you only see the top of her head. And so on my Zoom screen, I was seeing a conventional frame, which looked fine. And then when I got the rushes back, you know, she was balanced right at the bottom there with just this triangle of the bed sheets, and honestly, I like jumped up for joy and like ran around the room. It's so amazing when those things happen. Like,
It's too good. Like when I first saw the first cut of it, I was like, that shot is genius, because there's all this negative space behind her, it's perfectly framed. It is like an Argento like shot.
I should have just told you I planned that. Emma wouldn't have known.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, that's my favorite. But to be honest, like every day there was something like that. Like Happy Spookies is another. It's not a happy accident, but it's because it was made in a way where we encouraged a lot of improvisation, and a lot of it was about a lot of the challenge to myself as a director and like somebody who really likes to be a control freak and turn up on set with everything storyboarded, and like that's how we did Dawn of the Deaf and Salt and all these other movies. The big challenge on this one to myself was to turn up. We only had a scriptment. I had a few bullet points for each of the scenes, and I just had to be present and in the moment with the actors and figure out the movie kind of beat by beat as we went along, and be open to things that the actors would throw up. And they throw up all these amazing ideas or just improvise these great lines that ended up being like some of my favorites. Like, yeah, so like Emma's Happy Spookies line was just gold, and she said it and then immediately forgot that she'd said it, and Jed had to remind her that she'd like uttered this classic line.
When I saw the first cut, I was like, Emma, that Happy Spookies thing's brilliant. And she was like, what's Happy Spookies? Like, Emma, you said it. And like she didn't see it until like the day before it dropped on Shudder when we had our cast and crew screening, and she's like, "Oh wow,
yeah,
yeah."
Perfect. I've got room. We got room. I've got time for one more. Davis, why don't you go ahead with your question?
Okay, I'll try to be quick. But one thing I'd like to say, other than well done, is this was the first time I watched a movie or like something longer than 30 minutes on my computer. And that really messed with I just prefer watching on a screen, so it like a TV screen. So it was very weird. I just sat back and just let your performers take over my screen basically. So that made it extra spooky to try and watch it like that.
Our producer Douglas Cox has a good like cheat to watch Host, where you're like, if you open a Zoom call in the background, it activates your camera so the green light comes on, so you can watch it feeling like a participant in the call. It's pretty spooky.
Yeah.
It was very spooky. But my question was based on what you were talking about with lack of storyboarding and stuff. What were some of the challenges of working with the cast remotely? You know, like not being able to physically, I guess, be there on set, you know, if any challenges you didn't already mention.
I mean, actually, like the groups, like when it came to directing performance, that was fine, because I feel like any director needs to be able to like quite concisely and verbally get across what they're thinking. And I think being in the physical space doesn't impede that. So that really kind of like, that was really a pleasure doing that, you know, working that way with the actors. And I feel like because I'd worked with a lot of them before, we already had a bit of a shorthand. It was really about staging the set pieces and not being able to shoot most of it myself, because horror set pieces are so much about the pacing and the very particular framing and really like leading an audience. You've got to lead an audience through a scare scene, you know, beat by beat, and know exactly where their eyes are going to be on the screen. And it's a really involved process, and a lot of these cast had, you know, never really shot anything apart from Instagram videos before. So one of the things that we did up front is we showed the cast a couple of horror movies, and they hate horror movies, but we showed them movies like, we showed them Paranormal Activity 3, which is our favorite Paranormal Activity movie, and we played it to them, and like they'd freak out at a moment, and we kind of hit pause and say, look, the reason you freaked out at that moment is because they framed it with a big open doorway in the background, and your eyes are drawn to it. You think there's, you know, doorways are meant to have people in them, so you're looking for a figure in there. And, you know, so we kind of just like broke down the language of horror, so at least they understood it and they could look out for these opportunities within their own spaces that they knew so much better than we did. And you know, and then actually, like, a lot of it, I'd basically like film the set piece myself, acting it out and doing the camera work, and I'd just send it to them, and I'd say, you know, do it like this, and they'd send me back a clip, and it wouldn't, you know.
I want to see that cut. I want to see the cut of the film where you're all the parts.
It's gonna be in the behind the scenes. Let's start a hashtag. But like, but you know, but the good thing about we're working with our friends. So if they sent through something that was shit, I could say this doesn't work because of X, Y, and Z. Like, and it was about how much of a massive time commitment for everyone, and everyone wanted it to be really good. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't like we were engaging them like if they were actors we'd never met before. You know, we were all on this like 24/7 for the whole duration.
Awesome job. Like I could feel that with like, I really love the performances. I was just like, the set choreography would, you know, it'd be something crazy, you know, possibly. So I appreciate that.
I think like work with your friends, or if you can't work with your friends, don't work with assholes. Like those are the two like main tenets of like filmmaking.
What if your friends are assholes though, Rob? That's
well, they yeah. I mean,
we got over it in the end, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Davis. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, everyone that had questions today. I wanted to see if we talked previously that I could open the questions up. You have a Raimi project coming up. Is there anything you can say about that?
No, but it's going to be really good. It's going to be really good, and it's going to be what can we say about that? No, I mean, like it's amazing. It's so fun working with Sam is an absolute dream, and he's a big hero of ours. And I feel like, you know, it's a weird one because it kind of got announced after. Oh yeah, shit. It kind of got announced after Host already existed, but the fact is, we've been working on this film for. Are you just going to hold that up the whole time, Joe? We've been working on this project with Sam for months, and I feel like so much of Sam's DNA is actually in Host. Like so much that we've learned from him developing this movie, and just from getting an insight into how he tells stories and how he, like the big one for me is like Sam always puts the audience experience first. It's like, how is the audience going to be feeling moment to moment? And he's such a master of this, you know, that same kind of like roller coaster horror that we really wanted to really wanted to kind of hit that sweet spot with Host, where it was, you know, it's a movie that just had this pace that never let up and had a real sense of fun and inventiveness to it. And you know, a lot of that comes from working with Sam. So I don't know if he's seen it yet, but there's a lot of him in this movie.
Did guilt trip him the last time. We were like, come on, Sam.
Yeah, he cried a little bit.
Oh.
But no, like Rob said, he's our hero, and like we love his film. So it's obvious some of that DNA will bleed into our films, including Host. And I do think the last 20 minutes of Host very similar in terms of the roller coaster-ness of the last 20 minutes of Evil Dead 2. Say, like we wanted, because the last section we called in the script, we called it the freak out, where we wanted you to breathe in at the start of it and not breathe out till the end of it, because
it happened.
It's going to, you don't have time to comprehend what's going on. It's just death after death after crazy scene after things you can't believe we could possibly do on Zoom, like we did.
I think what was important for us about that like I feel like as a filmmaker, whenever you're making a horror movie, you're basically setting a framework by which the audience watches your horror movie. Like, you know, Paranormal Activity is such a great reference for this. Like, I remember seeing that in the cinema the first time, and literally the door moving like an inch got this huge gasp from the audience. And it's amazing because they set this framework whereby the tiniest little thing became a huge set piece. And we really wanted the first like most of Host, like the first 30 minutes, to feel like we were almost in a Paranormal Activity movie. You were looking for these little bits of the ghost influencing the background and cupboards, you know, moving and this kind of thing. And then in that final third, we wanted to really up it and totally kind of make the audience feel like they had no roadmap for where we were going, and showing the demon and doing all these crazy stunts that you know, the audience had no idea we were able to pull off by watching the first,
especially in lockdown.
In lockdown, I think that's it. Like knowing that we made it in these certain conditions.
Mission accomplished.
You can do a lot. I think with setting an audience's expectations and then blowing it up later on.
Yeah, and talking about expectations, like I think the thing that helped the film a lot, and again, we did not know at all that it would blow up like this, is the fact that we're British, and I don't think it's been talked about enough. You don't get British movies, you don't get British found footage movies, British horror films that do anything like this. So nobody was expecting it, and expectations were very, very low, and even our expectations of how it would be received was very low as well. So this is just an absolute like weird, surreal waking dream, like for the last 2 weeks. Like it's bizarre. I don't feel like I feel like I'm in a coma, like in Life on Mars or something.
Wake up, Jed.
Yeah.
Josh, do you have any other questions for Jed and Rob?
Well, I mean, I do have some questions, but we would go way over time. Hey, I want to let you guys know, though, I will be hitting you up because I want to get an exclusive for Dread Central about the Dawn of the Deaf feature film. Also, maybe get some more information.
Rob, you said too much now. You said way too much, Rob.
It's that tequila shot, Jed.
I said to him today, like, we shouldn't talk about the Dawn of the Death feature.
Oh,
It's
no.
not been announced.
I mean, it's been great to be a part of this this event. I want to thank Mo and Horror Origins for just letting me come on and co-pilot this thing. And you know, I can't wait to see this film popping up on just about everyone's top 10 horror movies of 2020 lists.
Oh, thanks, man. And by the way, we're massive Dread Central fans as well, so like it means a lot.
Massive.
All that you guys have given, like, so good.
All the support when that first review dropped that we haven't.
Our critic Jerry Smith is
Jerry at the scene. He was an early adopter.
Yeah,
Jerry's an early adopter. He was one of the first ones that said it's the scariest film of the decade.
Yeah.
As important as Blair Witch. We've been riding on that for 2 weeks now. So thank you.
And that's the thing. Like to be honest, we made this movie. You know, we're releasing it on Shudder. We made it as horror fans for horror fans, and it's really
and you hit a home run.
Yeah, and so it really means a lot when you guys come back with something like that. It really does.
Yeah, and if Dread Central want us for anything, literally, if you want us to help you move, then just
we'll come and help you
do that.
Be careful.
No, I love Dread Central, so.
No,
yeah.
I very much appreciate you. Like I said, I'm Moshaty. I'm the live Q&A host for HorrOrigins. I want to thank Josh Millican from Dread Central for being with me today, Jed Shepherd, Rob Savage. Thank you so much for your time today. If everyone can open up their cams for a second and just applaud these two gentlemen for being currently 100% on the tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes.
Crazy, right?
Hey, wait, guys. Everyone get a drink and we'll do Happy Spookies.
Oh, I'm going to have to pretend I'm having
a drink.
Oh, just mime it.
I've got a candle.
Don't drink the candle, Jed. Remember what happened last time.
Kelly, Lisa, and Elwood, where's your cameras?
They've clearly gone to sleep.
Joshua, open them up.
Oh, nice. Oh.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Happy Spookies! Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a good night, gentlemen, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Everyone, take care. Bye.
Bye.